Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. Whether you are returning tonight or discovering this quiet channel for the first time, this is a calm place to slow down, learn something gentle, and let the day slowly fall away. Tonight, we are going to look at astrology in a careful and peaceful way. Not as something to argue about, not as something to laugh at, and not as something that has to be forced into one simple answer. Instead, we are going to follow the real science hidden inside its long history. Because long before astrology became daily horoscopes, birth charts, sun signs, and personality readings, it began with one of the oldest human habits of all: looking up. For thousands of years, people watched the sky because the sky changed in ways they could count on. The sun rose and set. The moon grew from a thin silver curve into a bright round disk, then faded again. Certain stars returned to the same place in the sky at the same time each year. The planets wandered slowly against the background of the stars, bright points of light that seemed to move with their own quiet purpose. To ancient people, this was not just beautiful, it was useful. Before clocks, printed calendars, weather apps, or electric lights, the sky was one of the most dependable tools humans had. In ancient Mesopotamia, in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, sky watchers kept records of eclipses, moon phases, and planetary movements on clay tablets. Some of those tablets are more than 2,500 years old. In ancient Egypt, the rising of the star Sirius helped signal the season when the Nile River would flood, bringing water and rich dark soil to the fields. In many farming cultures, the position of the sun helped people know when to plant, when to harvest, and when the cold months were coming. The sky was not far away from daily life. It was tied to food, travel, festivals, sleep, weather, and survival. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're welcome to subscribe. And if it feels natural, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm corner of the world, one sleepy traveler at a time. The quiet continues here, just as it is. Astrology grew from that same deep attention. The early sky was like a vast calendar written in light. A person could look east before dawn and see which stars were rising. They could watch the moon and know roughly how far the month had passed. They could notice the sun climbing higher in summer and staying lower in winter. These were not guesses. They were patterns, seen again and again across generations. Over time, people began to ask a very human question. If the sky marks the seasons so clearly, could it also mark the seasons of a life? If the moon pulls the oceans into tides, could its changing face also matter to human beings in some smaller, quieter way? If the sun can warm fields, guide migrations, and shape the length of a day, then perhaps the moment of birth also felt connected to the great turning clock above. This does not mean every ancient belief was scientifically correct, but it does mean astrology did not begin as nonsense. It began as observation. It began with farmers watching the horizon, with priests marking eclipses, with sailors learning the stars, with families noticing that the same bright constellations returned when the air grew cold, or when the rains came back, or when certain crops were ready. And somewhere inside that long watching, the sky became more than a clock. It became a mirror. people began to see stories in the stars. They gave names to patterns. They imagined animals, heroes, scales, twins, fish, lions, and archers traced across the darkness. These shapes helped them remember the sky. And once the stars had names, it became easier to feel that they were speaking in a language. A slow language, a quiet language, a language of timing, memory, and meaning. That may be why astrology still feels personal to so many people today. It carries a very old feeling inside it. The feeling that life is not floating alone, that a birthday belongs to a season, that a person arrives under a certain sky, that the body, the earth, the moon, and the sun are all part of one larger rhythm. Tonight, we can rest inside that idea gently. The stars do not have to answer every question for us, but they can still remind us that human beings have always searched for patterns above their heads and have always wondered whether those patterns might somehow reach the quiet world within. Long before anyone opened a horoscope or drew a modern birth chart, the sky was watched with patient eyes. A person standing outside before dawn could see that the heavens were not random. The stars seemed fixed in their places, yet the whole pattern slowly shifted through the year. A bright star that rose before sunrise in one season might vanish into daylight for a while, then return months later in the same part of the sky. This return mattered. It gave people a way to measure time without numbers on a wall. One of the clearest examples comes from ancient Egypt. The star Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, disappeared from view for part of the year, then returned just before sunrise in the eastern sky. This first morning appearance is called a heliacal rising. It means a star becomes visible again in the glow before dawn, after being hidden near the sun. For many Egyptians, the return of Sirius came close to the season when the Nile River flooded. That flood brought dark, rich silt onto the fields, helping wheat, barley, flax, and vegetables grow in the narrow green valley beside the river. A star in the sky became tied to water in the river. Light above became linked with soil below. The same kind of watching happened in Mesopotamia, where Babylonian scholars wrote sky records on clay tablets. Some of those tablets listed stars, constellations, moon phases, and the movements of planets. A famous group of star lists, known as Mul Apin, copied in the first millennium BCE, organized the sky into named stars and seasonal risings. These records were practical as much as symbolic. They helped people keep track of months, festivals, and royal events. A tablet could hold a memory longer than a single human life. Pressed marks in soft clay became a way for one generation to pass its sky to another. In ancient Greece, the poet Hesiod wrote about farming and the stars around the 8th century BCE. He told farmers to notice the Pleiades, a small cluster of bright blue stars in the constellation Taurus. When the Pleiades rose before dawn, it marked one part of the farming year. When they set in the evening, it marked another. To the naked eye, the Pleiades looked like a tiny misty dipper, a small gathering of stars close together in the dark. Modern astronomy shows that this cluster sits more than 400 light-years away, which means its light takes more than 4 centuries to reach Earth. Ancient farmers did not know that distance. They knew the pattern. The return of that small starry cluster helped them place their work inside the year. Across the world, people learned that certain sky signs arrived with certain earthly changes. In some places, stars helped mark the start of rains. In others, they guided travel across open water or open desert. Some migratory birds appeared and vanished with the seasons, following changes in food, daylight, and temperature. Flowers opened, rivers swelled, animals moved. The sky gave these changes a visible order. This kind of observation took patience. Ancient sky watchers did not learn the year in a single night. They watched through cold seasons, warm seasons, clear nights, cloudy months, lucky years, and difficult ones. They noticed that the moon completed its cycle in about 29.5 days. They saw that the sun rose farther north on the horizon in summer and farther south in winter. They learned that the planets moved differently from the stars, wandering slowly across the same broad band of sky. Those planets were bright enough to notice, strange enough to remember, and steady enough to track. Over many generations, these repeated patterns became dependable. The sky became a record book that could be read by anyone willing to look carefully. A star's return could mean that a season was changing. A moon phase could mark the passing of a month. The sun's height could tell people whether the days were lengthening or shortening. From that quiet record-keeping, a deeper feeling naturally grew. If the heavens could mark the best time to plant grain, gather food, begin a journey, or prepare for a flood, then the sky seemed woven into human life. The movement above had already proven useful on Earth. It had already guided hands, fields, rivers, and roads. From there, meaning began to gather around the patterns, as gently as starlight gathering on the edge of morning. That gathered meaning needed a shape people could remember. The zodiac gave the year that shape. At its root, the zodiac is tied to the path the sun seems to follow across the sky over one full year. Astronomers call this path the ecliptic. The word may sound technical, yet the idea is simple. From Earth, the sun appears to move against the background of distant stars. Of course, Earth is the one moving around the sun. But from the ground, standing in a field or on a temple roof, it looks as if the sun slowly drifts through the same broad band of sky, month after month. That band became one of the most important parts of ancient astronomy. The moon travels close to it. The visible planets travel close to it. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn will appear near this same sky road because the planets orbit the sun in roughly the same flat plane. To the eye, they seem to wander along a shared celestial track. Ancient sky watchers noticed this long before telescopes existed. The zodiac grew from that track. The word zodiac comes from a Greek phrase meaning circle of animals, because many of its signs were pictured as living creatures. Aries the ram, Taurus the bull, Cancer the crab, Leo the lion, Scorpio the scorpion, Pisces the fish. Other signs took different forms, such as Gemini the twins, Virgo the maiden, Libra the scales, Sagittarius the archer, Capricorn the sea goat, and Aquarius the water bearer. These images help turn a hard-to-measure sky into something easier to hold in memory. Instead of a blank ring of stars, people saw a yearly circle of figures. By around the first millennium BCE, Babylonian astronomers had developed a system that divided the sun's path into 12 equal sections. Each section covered 30 degrees of the full circle. A complete circle has 360 degrees, so 12 parts fit neatly into the year. This was a practical choice. 12 also matched the rough number of lunar cycles in a solar year, since the moon takes about 29.5 days to go from new moon to new moon. A solar year takes about 365 days. The fit was not perfect, so ancient calendars often needed corrections. Still, 12 gave sky watchers a clean, repeating structure. The zodiac became a kind of circular calendar. As the months passed, the sun appeared to move through one sign after another. A person born in late March or early April was linked with the part of the year called Aries. A person born in late July or early August was linked with Leo. A person born in late October or early November was linked with Scorpio. In this way, a zodiac sign points back to the season of someone's birth. It marks where the sun appeared to be along its yearly path when that person entered the world. That detail is easy to overlook because modern astrology often focuses on personality. Yet the original structure is deeply tied to time. A sign is connected to the sun, the year, and the turning of Earth through space. The sky at birth was also a seasonal sky. Someone born under Capricorn arrived near the cold, dark turn of winter in the northern hemisphere. Someone born under Cancer arrived near the long, bright days around midsummer. Someone born under Libra arrived near the balance of autumn, when day and night draw close to equal length. These seasonal links are part of what made the zodiac feel alive. The signs were attached to real changes in light, heat, weather, plants, animals, and daily work. In older communities, birth seasons shaped the world around a newborn in very visible ways. A winter baby might arrive when fires burned longer, food was stored, and nights stretched deep. A summer baby might arrive when fields were green, insects were active, and daylight lingered into the evening. The zodiac placed those earthly differences into a sky pattern. It let people say that a birth belonged to a certain part of the year, marked by the sun's place in the heavens. That does not require the stars to push personality into a fixed shape. The connection begins more gently than that. It begins with timing. A circle in the sky became a circle of seasons. A sign became a marker of sunlight. A birthday became part of a larger rhythm that returned again and again, year after year, as Earth continued its quiet path around the sun. That larger rhythm reaches a newborn through ordinary things. Light through a window, air temperature outside the home, the length of the evening, the food available to a family, the illnesses moving through a town during colder or wetter months. A birth date belongs to a real season, and a season is a real physical environment. A baby born in January in the Northern Hemisphere arrives into shorter days and longer nights. In a city like London, a day near late December has only about 8 hours of daylight. Near late June, the same city receives more than 16 hours. That is a large difference for the eyes, the skin, the home, and the daily rhythm of the people caring for the child. A baby born in July may be carried outside into warm evening light. A baby born in winter may spend more early weeks in dim rooms, wrapped in heavier clothing, surrounded by indoor heat and longer darkness. These details do not decide a whole life. They become part of the first setting. The body is especially sensitive during early development. A newborn's sleep is still forming in the first months after birth. At first, babies sleep in scattered pieces across day and night. Over time, the body begins to build a stronger day-night pattern. One important part of that pattern is melatonin, a hormone that rises in darkness and helps the body prepare for sleep. In many babies, clearer melatonin rhythms begin to appear after the first few months of life. That means early light exposure, evening routines, feeding times, and household schedules can all become part of the body's first lessons in time. Scientists sometimes call the length of daylight the photoperiod. Photo means light. Period means a span of time. So photoperiod simply means how much light there is during a day. Plants respond to photoperiod when they flower. Many birds respond to it when they migrate or breed. Humans respond to it too, though in more subtle ways. Light helps set the body clock, and that clock guides sleep, alertness, temperature, and many daily changes that happen quietly inside us. Researchers have studied whether season of birth is linked to later patterns in sleep timing, mood, and daily rhythm. The effects are usually small. They do not give a simple rule for every person. Still, the idea is interesting because it shows that birth timing can leave faint biological traces. Some studies have found differences in morningness and eveningness, depending on season of birth. Morningness means a person naturally feels more awake earlier in the day. Eveningness means energy tends to rise later. These patterns are also shaped by genes, age, work, school, screens, habits, and light exposure across life. Birth season is only one possible thread in a much larger weave. Mood has also been studied through the lens of season. In places with strong changes in daylight, some people feel lower energy during darker months. Seasonal affective disorder is one well-known example. It is a mood pattern linked to seasonal light changes, often appearing in fall or winter, and easing when brighter months return. That does not mean a winter birth creates a winter personality. It does show that daylight can reach deeply into human biology. The body notices the calendar through the amount of light in the sky. A gentle way to picture this is to imagine two seeds placed in different windows. One seed begins near a cool window in February, with pale light and long shadows. Another begins in June, with warm mornings and late sunsets. The seed is still shaped by its own nature. Its roots, leaves, and growth are guided by the kind of plant it already is. Yet the first light around it matters. The temperature matters. The water, soil, and season matter. Human beings are far more complex than seeds. But the comparison helps soften the idea. Birth timing does not need to be a fixed script to be meaningful. It can be part of the first weather around a life. When astrology connects a birthday with a season, it is touching something real, even if the meaning people draw from it is symbolic. A birth sign points to a place in the year. That place in the year carries light, darkness, warmth, cold, routines, foods, and rhythms. The sky's calendar becomes the body's calendar in small ways. Among all the bodies in the sky, the strongest and clearest influence comes from the one that rises every morning. That morning star is not a star in the old symbolic sense. It is the star at the center of our own system. The sun sits about 93 million miles from Earth, so far away that its light takes a little over 8 minutes to reach us. By the time sunlight touches a bedroom wall, a field of grass, or the surface of the ocean, it has already crossed a distance almost too large to picture. Yet it arrives gently, a pale line at the horizon, a warm square on the floor, a brightening of the sky that tells living things the day has begun. That light is the strongest celestial influence in ordinary human life. Earth has seasons because the planet is tilted as it travels around the sun. The tilt is about 23.5 degrees. During one part of the year, the northern hemisphere leans more toward the sun, bringing longer days and higher sunlight. 6 months later, that same half of Earth leans away, and the days grow shorter. This simple tilt changes forests, oceans, farms, animal behavior, and human routines. It decides when snow lasts on the ground. It helps shape when leaves open. It changes when insects hatch, when flowers bloom, and when many birds begin their long migrations. The sun also powers the green life that feeds almost everything else. Plants use sunlight in a process called photosynthesis. Photo means light. Synthesis means putting together. Inside leaves, a green pigment called chlorophyll catches sunlight and uses that energy to turn carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil into sugar. That sugar feeds the plant. Oxygen is released as part of the process. A blade of grass, a maple leaf, a wheat field, and a patch of ocean algae all use this same basic gift of light. Even animals that never eat plants still depend on this chain. A fox may eat a rabbit. The rabbit may eat clover. The clover grew by catching sunlight. In the ocean, tiny floating organisms called phytoplankton do a huge share of this work. They drift near the surface, too small for most people to see clearly. Yet they help feed marine life from small shrimp-like animals to the largest whales. The sun also drives weather. Different parts of Earth heat at different rates. Land warms faster than water. Dark surfaces absorb more light than pale surfaces. Warm air rises, cooler air moves in, and winds begin. Sunlight lifts water from oceans, lakes, and soil through evaporation, turning liquid water into invisible vapor. That vapor gathers into clouds. Later, it returns as rain, mist, or snow. Every quiet cloud moving across the sky is part of a water cycle powered by sunlight. The body responds to this same star in more personal ways. Sunlight entering the eyes helps set the body's internal clock. Deep in the brain is a tiny timing center that reacts to light signals from the eyes. It helps guide when the body feels alert and when it prepares for rest. Morning light tends to push the body toward wakefulness. Evening darkness allows melatonin to rise. Melatonin is a sleep-related hormone that usually increases after light fades. This daily rhythm affects body temperature, hunger timing, attention, and sleep. A bright morning can make the day feel more awake. A dim winter afternoon can make evening seem to arrive early. In many people, sunlight also affects mood. During darker months, reduced daylight can lower energy and change sleep patterns. This is why light therapy lamps are sometimes used in winter for people who become strongly affected by seasonal darkness. The treatment usually involves sitting near a bright lamp in the morning, so the eyes receive a clear signal of daytime. The lamp does not replace the sun completely, but it shows how strongly the body listens to light. So when ancient people gave the sun such importance, they were responding to something real. The sun warmed their fields. It marked their calendars. It helped decide when rivers rose, crops grew, and animals moved. It shaped the length of labor, travel, rest, and celebration. Among all the lights in the sky, this one truly ruled the visible world. A planet may carry symbolic meaning in astrology. A star pattern may carry memory. The sun carries energy into Earth's air, water, leaves, and bodies every single day. Its influence is physical, measurable, and deeply familiar. From 93 million miles away, it reaches the skin as warmth, the eyes as brightness, and the body as time. Celestial influence becomes easier to understand when it begins with light. A beam of morning sunlight begins as something outside the body. It crosses the glass of a window. It touches the face. It passes through the clear surface of the eye and reaches the retina, the thin layer of light-sensitive tissue at the back. The retina is often described as the place where vision begins. It contains rods that help with dim light and cones that help with color and detail. There is also a special kind of light-sensing cell in the retina that is less about seeing shapes and more about telling time. These cells respond strongly to blue rich light, especially light near the color of a clear morning sky. When they are activated, they send signals along a nerve pathway toward a tiny clock center deep in the brain. Scientists call that center the suprachiasmatic nucleus. A simpler way to picture it is as the body's master clock. It sits in the hypothalamus, a small control region near the base of the brain that helps manage hunger, thirst, temperature, and sleep timing. This master clock does not tick like a watch. It works through chemical signals, nerve signals, and daily cycles in thousands of cells. Most human body clocks run close to 24 hours, but they need regular light to stay lined up with the outside world. Morning light acts like a reset signal. It tells the body that the active part of the day has begun. With that signal, alertness can rise. Body temperature gradually climbs. The sleep pressure left over from night begins to clear. The brain also sends timing messages to the pineal gland, a small gland near the center of the brain that makes melatonin. Melatonin rises when darkness lasts long enough. It usually begins increasing in the evening, helping the body shift towards sleep. Bright light at night can delay that rise. Morning light can help melatonin fade earlier, making the day feel more awake and the following night easier to settle into. This is one reason people often sleep better when their mornings are bright and their evenings are dim. The body learns the difference between daytime and nighttime through repeated signals. A person who steps outside soon after sunrise gives the eyes a strong timing cue. Even on a cloudy morning, outdoor light is usually much brighter than indoor light. A living room may have a few hundred lux, which is a unit for measuring light brightness, A cloudy outdoor morning can still reach several thousand lux. Direct sunlight can climb far higher. The body notices that difference. It is like opening a curtain inside the nervous system. This clock influences more than sleep. Body temperature tends to reach its lowest point in the early morning hours, often before waking. It rises through the day and usually peaks in the late afternoon or early evening. Attention, digestion, hormone release, and energy patterns all follow daily rhythms as well. Cortisol, a hormone that helps the body wake and respond to the day, often rises strongly in the first hour after waking. That morning rise is part of the normal daily pattern. When light comes at the right time, these rhythms can feel steadier. When light arrives at odd times, the body can become confused. A person flying from Toronto to London crosses several time zones, and the clock inside the body may still be set to the old morning and evening. This is jet lag. The sun outside says one thing, while the inner clock still follows another schedule. Shift workers can feel a similar strain when they work under artificial light at night and try to sleep during the day. The body can adapt, but it adapts through signals, and light is one of the strongest. This gives astrology's old sky language a more grounded layer. The sky affects the body through timing that can be measured. A sunrise is more than a beautiful color on the horizon. It is information. A sunset is more than the end of daylight. It changes the signals reaching the eyes. Evening dimness allows the body to prepare for rest, while morning brightness teaches the clock where the day begins. The heavens reach human life through simple pathways. Light enters the eyes. The clock center receives the signal. Hormones, temperature, alertness, and sleep begin to shift. From far above, the rhythm of the sky becomes a rhythm inside the body, and that quiet link makes the old idea of celestial influence feel less distant, more physical, and much easier to understand. That physical link lands differently in every body. Two people can stand under the same grey January sky and feel very different inside it. One person may feel only a quiet change in the day. A second person may notice heavier sleep, lower energy, stronger hunger, or a harder time starting ordinary tasks. The season is shared. The response is personal. Daylight length is one of the clearest seasonal signals the body receives. In Toronto, a late December day has about 9 hours of daylight. A late June day has more than 15 hours. Farther north, the difference becomes even larger. In cities like Oslo, Norway, winter days can shrink to only about 6 hours of daylight, while summer evenings can stay bright very late. Closer to the equator, the change is gentler. A place like Singapore has nearly 12 hours of daylight through the whole year. This means the body's clock receives a much stronger seasonal swing in some parts of the world than in others. For many people, darker months bring small but noticeable changes. Sleep may feel heavier in the morning. Energy may rise more slowly. Appetite may shift toward heavier foods. Motivation may feel softer around the edges. These changes often make sense when seen through light biology. Longer darkness gives the body more time to produce melatonin. Shorter daylight can reduce the strength of the morning signal that helps the inner clock stay steady. Cold weather can also change daily habits. People spend more time indoors. Windows stay closed. Outdoor walks become shorter. The body receives less natural light at the very time it needs a clear daytime message. Seasonal affective disorder is the stronger form of this pattern. It is a seasonal mood condition that often appears during fall or winter, especially in places with shorter days. People may feel low mood, tiredness, sleep changes, food cravings, or trouble concentrating during darker months. For some, the pattern eases when spring light returns. Doctors have studied bright light therapy for this reason. A person may sit near a special bright lamp in the morning, often around 10,000 lux, so the eyes receive a strong daytime signal. Lux is simply a measure of how bright light appears to the eye. The treatment is usually gentle and timed carefully, because light in the morning can shift the body clock in a different direction than light late at night. Even people without seasonal affective disorder can feel the year moving through them in smaller ways. A rainy week can make waking feel slower. A bright spring morning can make errands feel easier. A long summer evening can stretch social time later than planned. The body is constantly reading the outside world, even during ordinary days that seem uneventful. Genetics may help explain why some people feel seasonal changes more strongly. Genes are the instructions inside cells that help shape how the body works. Some genes are involved in the body clock. Others influence how sensitive a person may be to light, sleep loss, or changes in routine. Age matters as well. Teenagers often shift toward later sleep timing. Older adults may become sleepier earlier in the evening and wake earlier in the morning. Work schedules, screen use, stress, and time spent outside all add their own influence. This is why seasonality never looks exactly the same from person to person. A soft comparison is two instruments in the same quiet room. A low cello and a small flute can hear the same note and answer in different ways. The note is shared, yet each instrument has its own shape, material, and tone. Human bodies are like that with light. The same winter morning can pass through one person lightly and through another more deeply. The same June evening can feel energizing to one body and overstimulating to another. This gives the old idea of seasonal personality a grounded place to rest. People are not blank surfaces under the sky. They have inner clocks, light sensitivity, sleep needs, and daily patterns that can vary widely. A birth season, a living season, and a body's own timing may all meet in quiet ways. The more closely we look at human rhythm, the clearer it becomes that temperament has a relationship with time. One way scientists describe personal timing is with a word called chronotype. Chrono means time. Type means a kind or pattern. So chronotype simply means the natural timing pattern a person tends to follow. Some people feel clearer in the early morning. Their energy rises with breakfast, daylight, and the first quiet hours of the day. Others feel slower at sunrise and more awake after sunset, when the house is dimmer and the world has begun to settle. Many people sit somewhere between those two ends. Chronotype is the reason one person may naturally wake at 6 a.m. and feel ready to begin, while another person may feel most focused at 10 p.m. This is more than habit. The body has internal clocks in many tissues, including the brain, liver, muscles, and digestive system. These clocks help time sleep, hunger, body temperature, alertness, and hormone release. The master clock in the brain helps coordinate them, much like a conductor keeping a soft orchestra together. When someone's inner timing leans earlier, morning light may feel welcome. When someone's timing leans later, early alarms can feel like being pulled from the wrong part of sleep. Chronotype also changes with age. Young children often wake early. During adolescence, many people shift later, with natural sleepiness arriving later at night and wakefulness arriving later in the morning. This shift can be strong enough that an early school start may feel harsh to a teenager's body clock. By adulthood, timing often becomes steadier. Later in life, many people drift earlier again, becoming sleepy sooner in the evening and waking earlier before sunrise. A person's chronotype is shaped by genes as well. Genes are instructions inside cells that help guide how the body works. Some clock-related genes help control how quickly the inner day runs and how strongly the body responds to light. This is one reason sleep timing can run in families. A parent who has always loved quiet mornings may have a child who wakes easily with the first light. Another family may be full of evening people who come alive after dinner when lamps are on and the outside world is darker. Environment adds its own layer. Morning sunlight can pull the clock earlier. Bright light late at night can push it later. A phone screen, a bathroom light, or a bright kitchen at midnight can send a small daytime signal to the eyes. Over weeks, those signals can affect sleep timing. Work schedules matter too. A baker who starts work before dawn may train the body toward earlier mornings. A nurse on night shifts may live against the natural light-dark cycle for long stretches. A student studying late under bright lights may slowly teach the body that midnight is still active time. This is where the science becomes gently personal. Two people may live under the same sky and still carry different clocks within them. One person may feel calm and capable while walking outside at 7 a.m., when the air is cool and the sun is low. Another may feel that same clarity near 9 p.m., when the room is quiet and fewer demands are waiting. The difference does not need to be judged. It can be observed. Morning types and evening types are like different clocks hanging beneath the same sky. One clock moves toward its brightest hour early. Another opens more fully later in the day. Both are still answering light, routine, age, genes, and daily life. The old language of astrology often speaks about personal rhythms. Some signs are described as steady. Some are described as active. Some are linked with reflection, motion, patience, or intensity. Modern chronotype science does not match those signs in a simple one-to-one way. Still, it gives us a grounded reason to treat timing as part of personality. A person's day has a shape. Energy rises and falls. Attention sharpens and softens. Sleep arrives more easily at certain hours than others. When someone says they feel like a night person, they may be describing a real rhythm in the body. When someone says mornings feel natural, they may be noticing the way their inner clock lines up with sunrise. Astrology's symbols may speak in older language, yet the body also has a language of timing. The two meet in the feeling that a person is not the same at every hour. The sky changes through the day. The body changes with it. Personal rhythm becomes one more quiet bridge between the heavens above and the lived pattern of an ordinary human life. Above those daily rhythms, a slower light has always moved through the dark. The moon changes the feeling of night in a way the sun never does. Its shape seems to grow and shrink across the month. Even though the moon itself remains a round rocky world about 238,000 miles from Earth. What changes is the part of its sunlit half that we can see. When the moon is near the sun in our sky, its bright side faces mostly away from us, and the night looks darker. A few days later, a thin crescent appears after sunset, low and delicate near the western horizon. Then the moon grows toward first quarter, when half of its visible face is lit. After that comes the bright full moon, rising near sunset and glowing through much of the night. The full cycle from new moon to new moon takes about 29.5 days. This is called a lunar month. Long before printed calendars, that cycle was easy to see. A person could look up each evening and know roughly where the month was. A thin crescent meant the cycle was young. A full moon meant the middle had arrived. A fading crescent before dawn meant the cycle was nearing its quiet end. The moon became a clock in the dark, moving more slowly than the day, yet more visibly than the turning seasons. Many cultures built calendars around it. The Islamic calendar follows lunar months, so each month begins near the sighting of a new crescent. That is why Ramadan moves through different seasons over a period of years. The traditional Chinese calendar is lunisolar, which means it uses moon months while also staying connected to the solar year. Many Jewish holidays also follow a lunisolar calendar, with months tied to moon phases and corrections added to keep festivals near their proper seasons. These systems show how deeply the moon shaped human time. It gave people a repeating pattern they could watch with their own eyes. Moonlight also changed human behavior, before electric lights became common in the late 1800s and early 1900s. A full moon can make a landscape bright enough to walk by, especially in open fields, snowy ground, or pale desert sand. It is still much dimmer than a lamp, yet compared with a moonless rural night, the difference can feel large. Paths appear, tree lines become visible, water reflects a silver trail. Before streetlights, headlights, and phone screens, that extra brightness mattered. People could travel more safely, gather later, hunt, fish, meet, or work outside when the moon was near full. In darker phases, the world became more hidden. The moon also leaves a physical mark on Earth through tides. Its gravity pulls on the oceans, creating a gentle stretching effect across the planet. As Earth turns, coastlines move through these tidal bulges, and the water rises and falls. The sun also affects tides, but the moon's closeness makes its pull especially important. When the sun, moon, and Earth line up during a new moon or full moon, tides tend to be stronger. These are called spring tides, though the name has nothing to do with the spring season. It comes from the idea of water springing higher. During first quarter and third quarter moons, the sun and moon pull at right angles, and tides are usually weaker, These are called neap tides. For coastal people, this rhythm could shape fishing, sailing, shellfish gathering, and the safest times to cross shallow places. On a quiet shore, the moon's pull becomes visible as wet sand, seaweed lines, and boats rising softly against their ropes. So the moon has always been more than a pale object above the trees. It marked months. It brightened roads. It moved oceans. It guided rituals, travel, work, and rest. Its cycle gave nighttime a pattern people could feel and plan around. Once a light in the sky can change the ocean and brighten the hours when people sleep, the boundary between the heavens and the body begins to feel very thin. A bright lunar night can reach the body in very ordinary ways. It can enter through a window. It can change the brightness of a path. It can make evening feel a little more open, especially in places without strong artificial light. For most of human history, night brightness changed much more than it does for many people today. A full moon over snow, sand, pale stone, or open water can give the landscape a soft silver shape. A new moon can leave the same place almost hidden. That difference matters because sleep is sensitive to light. Even small changes in evening brightness can affect when the body begins preparing for rest. Scientists have tried to measure whether the lunar cycle leaves a trace in human sleep. The results are interesting, though they do not all agree. In one laboratory study, researchers looked back at sleep recordings from adults who had spent nights in a controlled sleep lab. The participants were away from outdoor moonlight, and they were not told that the moon was part of the study. Around the full moon, the researchers found that people took about 5 minutes longer to fall asleep, slept about 20 minutes less, and had less deep sleep. Deep sleep is the slow, heavy part of sleep, when the brain's electrical waves become large and steady. It is often linked with physical repair, immune function, and feeling restored the next day. Other studies have found weaker effects, different effects, or no clear lunar pattern at all. That mixed picture is important. Human sleep is affected by many things at once. Caffeine, stress, age, bedroom temperature, screen light, work schedules, alcohol, noise, medications, and worry can all shift sleep more strongly than the moon does. A person sleeping beside a bright phone screen may receive far more evening light from that small rectangle than from the full moon outside. Still, the lunar idea has not disappeared from sleep science. One larger study looked at sleep in communities with very different access to electricity. Some people lived with little artificial light. Others lived in more urban settings with brighter nights. Across these groups, sleep tended to start later and last a little less during the nights leading up to the full moon. The effect was strongest where artificial light was limited, which makes sense. When the moon is brighter, evening activity can stretch later. People may sit outside longer. Travel may feel easier. Work, gathering, or social time may continue after sunset. The moon's effect may come partly from light itself and partly from behavior shaped by light. Expectation can also play a role. If someone believes the full moon affects sleep, they may pay closer attention to every restless night near it. The brain is very good at noticing patterns that already feel meaningful. A person may remember the night they slept badly under a bright moon and forget the full moon nights when sleep came easily. This does not make the experience fake. It shows that sleep is both physical and personal. The body lies in a room, responding to light, temperature, hormones, and sound. The mind also carries memory, belief, and attention into the night. There may be deeper biological rhythms involved as well. Some animals clearly follow lunar timing. Corals on reefs can release eggs and sperm in great synchronized events linked to moon phase and water temperature. Certain marine worms, crabs, fish, and insects time parts of their lives around tides or moonlight. For them, the moon can be a calendar written into behavior. Humans do not show lunar timing in such a clear and simple way. Our electric lights, indoor rooms, fixed workdays, and digital schedules have softened many natural signals. Even so, the body still evolved under open skies for a very long time. The full moon may act less like a command and more like a faint tide in the background. It does not need to overpower the body to leave a small mark. A slightly later bedtime can change the morning. A little less deep sleep can soften attention. A restless night can make ordinary problems feel heavier. A peaceful night can make the same day feel easier. Mood often begins with these quiet physical details. The length of sleep, the depth of sleep, the timing of light. The body's rhythms are delicate enough that small changes can echo into emotion, focus, hunger, and patience. Under that soft lunar glow, the old connection between sky and feeling becomes easier to understand. The moon may not steer a life, yet it has always changed the night in which life unfolds. A night can change quietly and still leave a mark by morning. 20 minutes less sleep may sound small when measured on a clock. Inside the body, those minutes can touch attention, patience, hunger, and memory. Sleep is when the brain sorts information from the day. During deeper stages of sleep, the brain strengthens some memories and lets other details fade. During dreaming sleep, emotional memories are processed in a different way, often with more activity in areas linked to feeling and imagery. When sleep becomes shorter or lighter, the next day can feel slightly more uneven. A person may misplace keys. A simple task may take longer. A small delay in traffic may feel more irritating than usual. The world has not changed very much. The body's ability to meet the world has shifted by a small degree. Even one restless night can affect the way the brain handles emotion. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in the brain, helps detect emotional importance, especially signs of threat or stress. The front part of the brain, behind the forehead, helps with planning, self-control, and steady judgment. Good sleep helps these systems work together more smoothly. After poor sleep, emotional reactions can feel stronger, and calm thinking can feel slower to arrive. This is why a tiny change in sleep quality can make a normal conversation feel heavier. The same words may land with more force when the body is tired. Appetite can also shift after short sleep. The body uses hormones to help regulate hunger and fullness. Ghrelin is one hormone that can increase hunger. Leptin is one hormone that helps signal fullness. After too little sleep, hunger signals can become stronger for some people, especially cravings for sweet or high-energy foods. that can make a tired morning feel different before breakfast even begins. The body is reading the night before and carrying that message into the day. Light works in a similar quiet way. A bright screen late at night may delay sleepiness. A dark winter morning may make waking feel slower. A short walk outside after sunrise can help anchor the body clock, even when the air is cold and the sky is pale. These are small inputs. They arrive as minutes of light, changes in brightness, or shifts in bedtime. Still, the body is built from rhythms that respond to repetition. A bedtime delayed by 15 minutes once may barely matter. Delayed by 15 minutes again and again, the inner clock can begin to drift. This is easy to picture in an old mechanical clock. A single tooth on a gear moves only a little. The dial on the front may still look almost correct. Over time, that tiny shift travels through the whole system. The minute hand falls behind. The hour hand follows. By the time someone checks the clock again, the whole face seems to be telling a slightly different story. Human rhythm can drift this way too. A later dinner, a brighter evening, a colder room, a noisy street, a moonlit night that stretches outdoor time just a little longer. Each small detail may seem too gentle to matter alone. Together, they can shape how the body enters sleep and how the morning feels. This helps explain why personal experience can feel so meaningful. A person may say, "Something felt off today," and that feeling may come from several quiet causes layered together. A little less sleep, a little less light, a heavier meal, a tense conversation, a change in weather pressure, a late message before bed. The body collects these small signals, then turns them into energy, mood, focus, and comfort. Astrology often lives near this same border between event and feeling. A date, a moon phase, or a sign may become a way to describe an inner shift that is already being felt. The meaning may be symbolic, while the body's sensitivity to timing is physical. A person may notice a pattern in themselves during certain seasons, certain months, or certain emotional cycles. The stars may give that pattern a name. The body may give it weight. This is where the subject becomes more delicate and more interesting. Human beings do not only react to large forces, they respond to subtle cues, repeated signals, and small changes in rhythm. A tiny adjustment in light or sleep can travel far into a day. A quiet symbol can travel far into memory. Between biology and interpretation, the sky becomes more than something seen overhead. It becomes part of the way people describe what they feel within. The feeling of meaning often begins with the brain doing one of its oldest jobs. It connects one thing to another. A sound in the grass may mean an animal nearby. A dark cloud on the horizon may mean rain before nightfall. A certain chill in the air may mean frost is coming. A flock of birds lifting from a field may mean something disturbed the ground below. The brain is built to notice these links, because for most of human history, noticing patterns helped people stay alive. Long before weather reports, a farmer could study the color of the sky, the direction of the wind, and the behavior of insects before a storm. Long before trail cameras, a hunter could read hoofprints in mud, broken twigs, and flattened grass. A rounded track might mean deer. A deeper print with claw marks might mean a bear or wolf. The world was full of signs, and the people who read them well had a better chance of finding food, avoiding danger, and preparing for change. This skill is called pattern recognition. It means the brain takes separate details and searches for a relationship between them. Sometimes the relationship is real. Smoke can mean fire. Thunder can mean a storm nearby. The smell of damp soil can mean rain has already touched the ground. Sometimes the link is weaker, more uncertain, or shaped by memory. A person may wear a certain sweater on a lucky day, then feel that sweater carries a small brightness afterward. A song may play during an important moment, then years later, the same song brings the whole feeling back. The brain does not store life as clean data. It stores life with emotion, place, timing, and meaning woven through it. This is why coincidences can feel so powerful. If someone thinks of an old friend and the phone rings a moment later, the event may stay in memory for years. All the times they thought of someone and no call came are easier to forget. The brain naturally gives weight to moments that feel charged. It holds on to surprise. It marks what seems special. That same ability helps people build stories about themselves and the world. In the night sky, pattern recognition becomes visible. Stars are scattered at many different distances from Earth. Two stars that look close together may be hundreds of light years apart in actual space. Yet from the ground, the brain connects them into shapes. A line here, a curve there, a hunter, a bull, a pair of twins, a fish, a scorpion. The constellation Orion contains bright stars such as Betelgeuse and Rigel, which look like part of one figure in the sky. Betelgeuse is a red supergiant star, while Rigel is a blue-white supergiant, and they are not sitting side by side like beads on a string. From Earth, their light forms a pattern the eye can remember. That is enough for the human brain to begin making a picture. Astrology grew from this same deep ability. It became a pattern language built from stars, planets, seasons, birthdays, and human experience. People noticed that the sky returned in cycles. They noticed that life also seemed to move in cycles. Childhood, growth, harvest, aging, loss, renewal. The zodiac gave these patterns names and images. A person could look at a sign and see more than a date. They could see a symbol that helped them describe temperament, timing, hope, or struggle. This does not require every connection to be measured like temperature or weight. Many human meanings work through recognition. A flag is cloth, yet it can hold a country. A wedding ring is metal, yet it can hold years of memory. A birthday is a date, yet it can hold family, age, and the feeling of time passing. Symbols are powerful because the brain knows how to gather many feelings into one small image. Astrology gives people a set of old images for doing that. The stars become a kind of map for inner life. A moon phase can give shape to a mood. A sign can give language to a habit. A planet can become a way of picturing desire, patience, beauty, conflict, or change. Pattern finding can lead people toward mistakes when the brain connects things too quickly. It can also lead people toward insight when it helps them notice repeated feelings, repeated choices, or repeated seasons in their lives. The same ability that helped humans read animal tracks weather signs, river levels, and star paths also helps us read ourselves. Inside that quiet skill, astrology becomes easier to understand as a human practice. It turns the ancient act of noticing into a softer act of reflection. Reflection is one of the quietest uses of astrology. Many people who read astrology today are not only looking for a forecast, they are looking for words. Words for moods that return. Words for patterns in relationships. Words for the way they act under stress, or the way they rest, love, worry, plan, and change. A simple horoscope may mention a week of patience, a need for rest, or a time to pay attention to communication. For some readers, that becomes a small pause in the day. They may think about a conversation they avoided. They may notice that they have been rushing. They may remember that their body has felt tired for several mornings in a row. The value in that moment may come from the act of checking in with themselves. A birth chart gives this reflection a more detailed shape. In astrology, a birth chart is a circular map of the sky for a specific birth time and place. It usually shows where the sun, moon, and visible planets appeared along the zodiac when someone was born. It also includes the horizon line. The sign rising over the eastern horizon at the birth moment is called the ascendant, or rising sign. Because Earth turns once every 24 hours, the rising sign changes roughly every 2 hours. That is why astrologers often ask for an exact birth time. A person born at sunrise may have a very different chart layout from someone born near midnight, even on the same date. The chart is usually divided into 12 areas called houses. Each house is linked with a broad life theme, such as home, work, relationships, creativity, or community. The planets are then placed inside those areas. A modern astrology reading might look at the sun as a symbol of identity, the moon as a symbol of emotion, Mercury as a symbol of communication, Venus as a symbol of love or beauty, and Mars as a symbol of action. These meanings come from long traditions mixed across Babylonian, Greek, Roman, Arabic, medieval European, and modern systems. A chart can feel detailed because it gives a person many places to look. Someone might ask whether they tend to act quickly or slowly. They might notice whether they need more privacy than others. They might think about how they handle conflict, change, affection, or responsibility. The chart becomes a structured prompt. A prompt is simply something that invites a response. A journal question can be a prompt. A therapist's gentle question can be a prompt. A quiet walk after a difficult day can be a prompt. Astrology can work this way for many people, giving the mind a set of symbols to move through one by one. This is why astrology often feels more personal than a list of facts. A list says what happened. A symbol asks what it means. A symbol can hold several layers at once. The moon can mean the actual moon in the sky, a 29.5-day cycle, the brightness of night, tides along a shore, and a feeling of inner change. Venus can mean a bright planet near sunrise or sunset, and also an old symbol for beauty, attraction, art, and connection. These symbols give people a language for experiences that may be difficult to name directly. A person may say they feel very lunar during a season of deep emotion. Another may say they are in a Saturn period when life feels slower, heavier, or more disciplined. The words are symbolic, yet the feelings being described are real human experiences. Astrology can act like a mirror in this way. A mirror does not create the face looking into it. It brings features into view. It shows angles, shadows, softness, tension, and expression. A birth chart may do something similar for someone's inner life. It may help them notice a fear they keep returning to. It may help them name a strength they usually overlook. It may help them see that a relationship pattern has appeared before. Self-reflection becomes easier when there is something gentle to focus on. The chart gives the eyes a circle, the memory a set of symbols, and the heart a quieter way to speak. This may be one reason astrology has lasted so long. People do not only want information about the sky, they want a way to place themselves beneath it. They want to feel that their moods, choices, and turning points belong to a pattern that can be held, studied, and slowly understood. When a description feels accurate, the feeling can be surprisingly strong. A few words on a page can seem to open a private door. That deep sense of recognition has its own psychology, and it begins with how flexible and layered human personality really is. Recognition often arrives before analysis. A person reads a sentence about being loyal, sensitive, restless, private, ambitious, or easily overwhelmed, and something inside them quietly responds. The feeling can be immediate. It can seem as if the words have found a hidden room. Psychology has studied this feeling for a long time. In 1948, a psychologist named Bertram Forer gave students what they believed was a personal personality description. After reading it, the students rated how accurate it felt. On average, they gave it a very high score, about 4.26 out of 5. The surprising part was that every student had received the same description. It included statements that were broad enough for many people to recognize themselves in them. A person may want others to like them, yet still value independence. They may have unused talents. They may seem disciplined at times and uncertain at others. Descriptions like these feel personal because human beings are layered. Most people contain more than one trait at the same time. Someone can be gentle with a child and firm during a problem at work. Someone can enjoy company in spring, then crave quiet during a stressful winter. Someone can be brave during illness, cautious with money, playful with friends, and serious when caring for family. A single person can carry many patterns depending on the place, the season, the relationship, and the pressure around them. This is called context. Context means the situation surrounding a person. The same trait may look different in different settings. Courage in a hospital room may look like calm speech. Courage on a mountain trail may look like steady feet. Courage in a family argument may look like staying kind while saying something difficult. When astrology describes someone as bold, sensitive, practical, dreamy, intense, or protective, the listener may search through memory for the places where that word fits. The brain is very good at doing this. It reaches into past moments and gathers examples. A person may remember standing up for a friend, crying during a movie, planning a family dinner, or feeling strangely alert during a full moon evening. The description becomes a small frame. Memory supplies the picture. There is also a process called confirmation bias. That means people tend to notice information that support something they already feel might be true. If someone believes they are a caring person, they may remember the times they helped others more easily than the times they were distracted or impatient. This does not make the caring false. It shows how memory gives some moments more light than others. The mind naturally arranges life into a story that feels understandable. Modern personality science often measures traits on sliding scales. One well-known model looks at openness, carefulness, sociability, agreeableness, and emotional sensitivity. A person is rarely all one thing. They may be somewhat social, highly careful, moderately open to new experiences, and more emotionally reactive during tired weeks. Personality is usually measured as a pattern of tendencies rather than a fixed label carved into stone. Astrology can feel accurate because it often works with this same richness, though in a symbolic way. A sign description may leave room for several versions of the same person. A Cancer may be described as protective, emotional, home-loving, and sensitive to the atmosphere around them. One listener may think of family. Another may think of memories. Someone else may think of the way a room's mood affects their own body. The symbol is broad enough to hold several doors open. That broadness is part of its power. An astrology description can resemble a soft focus portrait. The edges are gentle. The colors are familiar. The face may lack exact detail, yet the overall shape can still feel recognizable. A sharply measured report might say that someone scored high on one trait and lower on another. A symbolic description may say the person carries water, moonlight, fire, earth, balance, or motion. The first style measures. The second style gathers feeling into image. People often need both kinds of understanding. Daily life is rarely experienced as a chart of numbers. It is felt as weather inside the body, as memory in a room, as the tone of a conversation, as the quiet pull toward or away from certain people. Astrology gives those patterns names that are easy to remember. This helps explain why the descriptions can feel accurate without being narrow. They do not have to touch every detail. They can touch a recognizable shape. A symbol wide enough to hold many parts of a person can feel more intimate than a statement that tries to be perfectly precise. And once a symbol feels alive, it can begin to act like an old character in a story, carrying traits, moods, and meanings from one generation to another. A symbol that carries a character becomes easier for the memory to hold. This is where astrology begins to feel closer to myth and story. The zodiac signs are more than dates on a calendar. They often work like archetypes. An archetype is an old pattern of character that people recognize quickly. A mother holding a child, a traveler stepping onto a road, a ruler sitting with a crown, a trickster slipping through a doorway, a healer carrying herbs. These figures appear in stories because they are easy for human beings to remember. They give shape to feelings and roles that appear again and again across ordinary life. The word archetype comes from Greek roots that mean something like first pattern or original model. In modern psychology, the idea became especially well known through Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who wrote about archetypes in the early 1900s. He believed certain story patterns appeared across many cultures, because human beings share deep emotional experiences. Birth, childhood, love, fear, aging, loss, courage, and renewal all create patterns that stories can hold. Even without using Jung's full theory, the basic idea is simple. People remember character shapes. They remember the wise elder, the brave child, the jealous sibling, the lonely wanderer, and the loyal friend. Astrology uses similar shapes. Cancer is often pictured as protective, private, and tied to home. Sagittarius is often linked with travel, freedom, and searching. Capricorn is often connected with patience, duty, and long effort. Aquarius is often described through difference, invention, and social change. Pisces is often linked with sensitivity, dreams, and compassion. These descriptions are symbolic, yet they work because people can picture them. A person can imagine the careful builder. They can imagine the restless traveler. They can imagine the quiet caretaker watching the room from the edge of a family gathering. The signs become old story forms that people can step into for a moment. A person may read about Taurus and think of steadiness, comfort, food, gardens, and touch. The image becomes a way to ask whether they seek safety through the body and the material world. Someone reading about Gemini may think of language, curiosity, quick changes, and the need to keep several doors open at once. The symbol becomes a small theatre for self-understanding. Across history, this kind of symbolic character system appears in many places. Greek myths gave human feelings to gods and heroes. Athena carried wisdom, craft, and strategy. Hermes carried speed, messages, trade, and cleverness. Demeter carried harvest, motherhood, grief, and the return of growth after winter. In Hindu traditions, divine figures also hold deep patterns of protection, creation, learning, devotion, and transformation. In folk tales from Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas, animals often carry recognizable human traits. The fox may be clever. The bear may be strong and solitary. The hare may be quick and elusive. These figures make inner life visible. A person can understand caution more easily when it has the shape of a turtle pulling into its shell. They can understand pride more easily when it has the mane and posture of a lion. The zodiac signs use this same kind of memory. Leo is pictured through the lion, one of the most widely recognized animal symbols in the world. In ancient Mesopotamia, lion imagery was tied to royal power, heat, strength, and the fierce brightness of summer. The actual constellation Leo contains the bright star Regulus, whose name means little king in Latin. That star sits near the heart of the lion figure as people draw it today. Virgo is often pictured as a maiden holding grain, which connects the sign to harvest, care, and the ordering of earthly work. Libra is pictured as scales, a visible object people can understand at once. Scales weigh one side against another, so the symbol naturally gathers ideas of balance, fairness, judgment, and choice. These images lasted because they are memorable. Instead of saying someone is concerned with fairness, a pair of scales can appear in the mind. Instead of saying someone is bold or expressive, a lion steps into view. This is why archetypes feel older than opinion. They live in the space where image, memory, and emotion meet. Astrology gives these old patterns a calendar, It places characters around the year, each one tied to a season of light and a region of the sky. The signs become a circle of human possibilities. A person may not fit one symbol perfectly, yet they may find part of themselves inside it. A story form does not need to describe every detail to become useful. It only has to open a door that leads inward. Once the signs become characters in this way, the wandering lights above them begin to feel like characters too, each moving across the sky with its own pace, color, and ancient name. Those wandering lights had a different presence from the stars around them. Most stars kept their patterns night after night. Orion stayed recognizable. The Pleiades stayed clustered. The bright arc of the Milky Way still poured across dark skies like a pale river of light. The planets behaved in a stranger way. They moved. The word planet comes from an ancient Greek word meaning wanderer. To early sky watchers, the planets looked like bright stars that refused to stay fixed. They drifted through the zodiac, passing through the same broad sky road followed by the sun and moon. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn were all visible without telescopes. They were bright enough to track with the naked eye, and each one moved with a different pace. That made them feel alive in the old imagination. Mercury stayed close to the sun, appearing briefly before sunrise or after sunset. It was difficult to catch, low near the horizon, often lost in twilight. Because it moves around the sun faster than any other planet, Mercury completes one orbit in only 88 Earth days. To ancient observers, that quickness made it feel restless and clever. In Roman tradition, Mercury became linked with messages, travel, and speed. The symbol followed the behavior. A planet that flickered near the edge of daylight became a messenger moving between worlds. Venus had a very different character. It is the brightest planet seen from Earth, and at its best, it can shine brighter than every star in the night sky. Venus appears either as the morning star before sunrise or the evening star after sunset, depending on where it is in its orbit. Ancient people noticed this beauty at the edge of day. The planet glowed white and steady, often hanging above the horizon, while the rest of the sky softened into blue. Many cultures connected Venus with beauty, desire, fertility, and love. The Babylonians linked it with Ishtar. The Greeks linked it with Aphrodite. The Romans linked it with Venus, whose name is still used today. Its brightness gave the symbol a body. Mars carried its meaning through color. It often appears reddish-orange because its surface contains iron oxide, the same kind of rust-colored material that gives red earth and desert rocks their warm tone. Ancient watchers could see that red tint with the naked eye. Across several cultures, red became linked with heat, blood, danger, and conflict. The Romans named the planet after Mars, their god of war. The connection grew from what people could see. A red, wandering light crossing the sky slowly became a symbol of force, anger, action, and struggle. Jupiter moved more slowly and shone with a grand, steady brightness. It takes almost 12 Earth years to orbit the Sun, spending about 1 year in each zodiac sign from Earth's point of view. Ancient observers saw it return with a stately rhythm. In Roman tradition, Jupiter became the king of the gods, linked with law, expansion, power, and protection. The planet's large presence in the sky matched its later scientific reality in a striking way. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, wide enough to fit more than 1,300 Earths inside its volume. The ancient symbol came before the measurement, yet the sense of scale was already there in its slow, commanding light. Saturn moved more slowly than all the visible planets. It takes about 29.5 Earth years to complete one orbit around the Sun. To someone watching over decades, Saturn seemed patient, distant, and heavy with time. Its golden point of light crept through the zodiac so slowly that a person could mark whole chapters of life by its movement. The Romans linked Saturn with agriculture, age, boundaries, and time. Later, astrology often carried that slower feeling into ideas of discipline, delay, structure, and long effort. Each planet gained meaning from visible behavior. Speed became Mercury. Brightness became Venus. Redness became Mars. Grandeur became Jupiter. Slowness became Saturn. Ancient astrology turned these differences into character, the same way myth turned thunder into a god's voice, or harvest into a goddess's grief and return. The planets were lights, clocks, omens, and story figures at once. Their paths could be measured, their colors could be seen, their appearances could be remembered. Over time, those remembered details became symbols people used to speak about human life. A bright planet near dawn could suggest longing. A red planet near the horizon could suggest conflict. A slow planet crossing a sign could suggest patience and age. The sky had become a theater of moving figures, each one carrying a mood shaped by centuries of watching. Their symbolic power is clear. Their physical power belongs to a different kind of measurement, one that begins with distance, mass, and the gentle pull called gravity. Gravity gives the planets a real physical connection to Earth. Every object with mass pulls on every other object with mass. A stone pulls on Earth. Earth pulls on the stone. Jupiter pulls on Earth. Earth pulls on Jupiter. The force is usually too small to feel, unless one object is enormous, very close, or both. A physicist named Isaac Newton described this clearly in 1687, when he published his law of universal gravitation. The basic idea is gentle enough to picture. More mass means more pull. More distance means much less pull. When distance grows, gravity fades very quickly. Double the distance and the pull becomes only 1/4 as strong. Triple the distance and it becomes only 1/9 as strong. This is why Earth's gravity dominates the body so completely. A newborn weighing about 7 pounds is pulled downward by Earth, with a force strong enough to keep them resting on a mattress, against a parent's shoulder, or in a nurse's arms. The same baby is also pulled faintly by the moon, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, and every mountain, wall, crib, and person nearby. Those pulls exist. They are real. They can be calculated. Their sizes are extremely different. The moon is about 238,000 miles away, which is close in space terms. Its gravity is strong enough to help raise tides across Earth's oceans, because oceans are enormous and free to move. The effect is greatest across wide bodies of water, where small differences in pull can spread over thousands of miles. A tide along the Bay of Fundy in Canada can rise and fall by more than 50 feet in some places. Partly because the shape of the bay amplifies the tidal motion. The moon's pull becomes visible there as wet cliffs, exposed seafloor, and boats that rise and sink against the harbour wall. A human body is much smaller than an ocean. Most of its water is held inside cells, blood vessels, tissues, and organs. It cannot slosh freely across continents. The moon's gravity still reaches the body, though the tide-like difference across the body is tiny. This is where scale matters. A force that can shape oceans may leave only a vanishingly small mechanical effect across a person lying in bed. The planets are much farther away than the moon. Mars can come within about 34 million miles of Earth during a close approach, though it is usually much farther. Jupiter is huge, more than 300 times Earth's mass, yet it stays hundreds of millions of miles away. Saturn is larger than Earth too, but it is even more distant. Their gravity helps shape the solar system over long periods. Jupiter's pull affects comets, asteroids, and the paths of other bodies around the Sun. Across the small space of a newborn's body, the direct tidal effect of a distant planet is extremely small. Nearby objects can create tiny gravitational pulls too. A doctor standing beside a hospital bed has mass. A metal crib has mass. The hospital building has mass. The earth beneath the floor has almost all the local influence that matters. This does not make the planets imaginary. It places their physical pull in proper scale. Gravity is a real bridge through space, and measurement shows how fine that bridge becomes over great distance. The moon remains special because it is close enough to move oceans. The sun remains special because it pours light and heat across Earth every day. The other planets are meaningful in a different way when people use them in astrology. Their visible color, speed, brightness, and timing shaped centuries of symbolism. Mars became linked with action partly because it looked red. Venus became linked with beauty, partly because it shone so clearly near dawn or dusk. Saturn became linked with time, partly because it moves slowly across the zodiac. Those meanings grew from observation, memory, story, and culture. A gravitational pull can be measured in units of force. A symbol works through human recognition. Both can be real in their own domains. A wedding ring has only a small physical weight in the hand, yet it can carry years of memory. A calendar square is only ink and paper, yet a birthday written there can change the feeling of a whole day. Astrology may be strongest when understood through that second kind of reality. Its planets do not need to push the body like hidden levers. They can work as old markers in the sky, helping people speak about time, character, change, and meaning in a language older than modern clocks. A language can shape experience without moving a single object. Human life is filled with symbols that carry meaning through attention, memory, and shared agreement. A birthday is one example. The date itself is a square on a calendar. Yet when that date arrives, people may remember childhood parties, family kitchens, old photographs, candles on a cake, or the feeling of becoming 1 year older. Nothing about the number physically forces those memories to appear. The meaning gathers because people return to that date again and again. An anniversary works in a similar way. A wedding anniversary may fall on an ordinary Tuesday, with the same traffic lights, grocery stores, and morning weather as any other day. Still, the date can change how the day feels. Two people may remember a church aisle, a courthouse room, a backyard ceremony, a song, a dress, a suit, a hand being held. The date becomes a container for memory. A holiday can shape a whole town this way. On the 4th of July in the United States, streets may fill with flags, barbecues, fireworks, and families sitting on folding chairs after sunset. On Christmas Eve, many homes change through small repeated details. Lights on roofs, pine scent from a tree, wrapped gifts, familiar songs, and food that may only be made once a year. The calendar gives people permission to feel certain things together. Expectation rises around the date. Routine changes around the date. Memory settles onto the date like a soft layer of dust on an old book. Cause and meaning are different kinds of connection. Cause belongs to the physical chain of events. A match touches dry paper, and heat begins a flame. Rain falls on soil, and the ground becomes wet. Morning light enters the eye, and the body clock receives a signal. These are cause relationships. They can be tested, measured, and repeated. Meaning belongs to the way a person or a culture understands an event. A ring on a finger may weigh only a few grams, yet it can carry a marriage. A folded flag may be cloth, yet it can carry grief, service, family history, and national memory. A song may be only sound waves moving through air, yet one melody can bring back a summer from 30 years ago. The object is physical. The meaning forms through memory, culture, and emotion. Astrology often lives in this second space. A birth chart may not act like a machine pushing events into place. It can still become a calendar of meaning. A person may look at their moon sign and think about how they handle emotion. They may look at Venus and think about affection, beauty, or the way they seek closeness. They may look at Saturn and think about patience, limits, aging, or the long work of becoming steady. The planets become markers people use while reflecting on life. This is close to the way people use seasons. Spring does not command hope, yet blossoms and longer evenings often make hope easier to feel. Autumn does not command reflection, yet falling leaves, cooler air, and earlier sunsets often draw attention toward change. Winter does not create every quiet mood, yet darkness, stillness, stored food, and indoor warmth can give quiet moods a stronger setting. The season becomes a frame around the feeling. Astrology gives the sky a similar frame. A full moon can become a marker for release. A new moon can become a marker for beginning. A Saturn return, which happens around ages 29, 58, and 87, because Saturn takes about 29.5 years to orbit the Sun, can become a way to think about maturity, responsibility, and life structure. The planet's actual orbit is measurable. The personal meaning grows from how people have interpreted that orbit across generations. A calendar of meaning can be useful because human life is hard to hold all at once. People need ways to mark time. They need rituals for beginnings, endings, grief, growth, and change. They need symbols that help organize feelings too large for plain language. Astrology offers an old sky-based system for doing that. Its value may be strongest when it helps someone pause long enough to notice what is happening inside them. A chart can become a quiet surface where memory and identity arrange themselves into view. A moon phase can become a reminder to rest. A sign can become a word for a familiar habit. A planet can become an image for a life lesson that is still unfolding. The sky remains above, steady and distant. The meaning forms here, in the human act of looking, remembering, and making sense of time. That act of making sense often begins quietly. Someone may open a birth chart after a hard week and notice where their attention goes first. They may look at the moon and think about emotion. They may look at Venus and think about affection. They may look at Mars and think about how they respond when they feel pushed. The chart becomes a place to slow the thoughts down. A modern birth chart is usually drawn as a circle. Around the edge are the 12 zodiac signs. Inside are lines, symbols, and house divisions. The houses are areas of the chart linked with parts of life, such as family, work, friendship, learning, health, or partnership. A person reading the chart may not treat those symbols as fixed instructions. They may use them as prompts. A prompt gives the mind somewhere to begin. It can be as simple as asking, "Where do I feel stuck?" Or, "What pattern keeps returning?" That kind of self-questioning is one reason astrology remains useful to many people. It gives shape to reflection. Without a structure, inner life can feel blurry. A worry may sit in the chest without a name. A relationship habit may repeat for years before someone clearly sees it. A feeling of restlessness may appear every few months and then fade before it is understood. Astrology gives these patterns old words and visible symbols. A person may notice that they always feel strained around family gatherings. They may connect that feeling to the chart's 4th house, often linked with home and roots. Someone else may notice that they become quiet in conflict, then think about Mars as a symbol of action and anger. The planet has not forced the habit. The symbol has helped bring the habit into view. This is close to the way a person might use a journal. The blank page does not solve the problem. It gives the problem somewhere to appear. A therapist's question works this way too. So does a walk after dinner, when the body is moving and the day begins to settle. Astrology can become another reflective surface, especially for people who think well through images, seasons, and stories. One common astrology tool is called a transit. A transit compares where the planets are now with where they were at the time of someone's birth. Because planets move at different speeds, these patterns unfold on different timescales. The moon moves through the zodiac in about 27 days. Mars takes about 687 Earth days to orbit the Sun. Jupiter takes almost 12 years. Saturn takes about 29.5 years. A person looking at transits may use these cycles to think about timing in their own life. A Saturn period may lead them to reflect on responsibility or limits. A Jupiter period may invite thoughts about growth, learning, or opportunity. The value may come from the pause itself. Life often moves quickly enough that people do not stop to ask what a season is teaching them. A chart gives the pause a form. It turns time into something that can be looked at. Reading a chart can feel a little like looking at the night sky. The pattern is outside the observer. The meaning gathers inside the person looking. Two people can stand beneath the same constellation and feel different things. One may remember a camping trip from childhood. Another may think about distance, space, and the age of starlight. Someone else may simply feel calm beneath the dark. The stars provide the pattern. The observer brings memory. A chart works in a similar way. The symbols sit on the page, yet the response comes from the person reading them. They bring their family history, their fears, their hopes, their private seasons of change. This helps explain why astrology can feel intimate, even when the same symbols are shared by millions of people. A symbol becomes personal when it touches a lived memory. A moon sign may matter because someone has always felt deeply affected by tone, silence, and emotional weather in a room. A rising sign may matter because someone recognizes the way they appear to others before they feel fully known. A Venus placement may matter because it gives language to the way love feels safe, exciting, difficult, or tender. These are human questions first. Astrology gives them a sky-shaped vocabulary. For many people, that vocabulary brings comfort because it offers order without requiring a final answer. It lets a person place their habits inside a larger pattern and examine them gently. Across centuries, this reflective power helped astrology remain alive, even as astronomy became a separate science of telescopes, mathematics, and measured light. The split between astronomy and astrology took a long time. For much of history, the same person might study planetary motion, draw a chart, record eclipses, and advise a ruler. In the 2nd century CE, the scholar Claudius Ptolemy wrote two famous works in Alexandria. One, called the Almagest, explained the motions of the heavens using mathematics. Another, called the Tetrabiblos, explained astrology as a system of interpretation. To him, the measured sky and the meaningful sky belonged close together. That closeness lasted for centuries. In medieval Baghdad, scholars translated Greek, Persian, and Indian star knowledge into Arabic. Astronomers improved tables that predicted planetary positions. Astrologers used those same tables to cast charts for cities, rulers, marriages, journeys, and medical questions. A table of planetary motion could serve both calculation and interpretation. One side measured where Mars would appear. The other asked what Mars might mean in that moment. Across Europe, astrology appeared in royal courts, farming almanacs, medical calendars, and church debates. Some physicians once used zodiac diagrams to choose bleeding times or to describe body parts linked with signs. Many printed almanacs in the 1500s and 1600s included moon phases, weather guesses, feast days, planting advice, and astrological notes in the same small book. For ordinary people, the sky was connected with practical life. The same page might tell them when the moon was full and when a fair would be held in the nearest town. Astrology survived because it held many things at once. It held sky watching. It held timekeeping. It held myth. It held personality. It held ritual and personal story. A farmer could use the moon to think about planting. A sailor could use stars to keep direction. A court astrologer could use a planet's position to advise caution. A modern reader could use a birth chart to think about love, work, family, or the feeling of change. Different people entered the system through different doors. The long survival of astrology also says something about uncertainty. Human beings have always lived with unknowns. A harvest could fail. A child could become sick. A ship could vanish beyond the coast. A marriage could change the shape of a household. A ruler's death could unsettle a whole kingdom. When life felt difficult to predict, the sky offered a visible order. The moon returned. The sun came back after winter. Saturn moved slowly and steadily. Venus appeared again in the morning or evening. That order was comforting because it could be watched. A person could stand outside and see that the heavens continued their cycles. Modern life still carries uncertainty, even with satellites, clocks, forecasts, and medical scans. People wonder about timing, purpose, relationships, aging, work, and the kind of person they are becoming. Astrology offers an old bridge between the outer sky and the inner life. On one side of the bridge are real celestial patterns: the sun's path, the moon's phases, the slow movement of planets, the changing length of days. On the other side are human questions: identity, memory, fear, hope, loyalty, grief, and growth. The bridge has lasted because people keep walking across it. In the 20th century, astrology changed again. Newspaper horoscopes became popular, especially after astrologer R.H. Naylor wrote a column connected to the birth of Princess Margaret in 1930. Short sun sign readings could fit into daily papers, and later into magazines, websites, apps, and social media. This made astrology easier to reach, though much simpler than older chart traditions. A full birth chart uses time, place, houses, planets, and angles. A newspaper horoscope uses only the sun sign. Even in that simplified form, astrology kept offering people a small daily ritual. A few lines in the morning could become a moment of reflection before work, errands, or sleep. The reason for its survival is not only accuracy in the scientific sense. Its survival also comes from usefulness as a language. People return to languages that help them describe experience. They return to rituals that help them mark change. They return to symbols that make life feel less scattered. Astrology gives shape to time by placing human feeling inside the turning sky. That may be the deeper reason it has lasted across clay tablets, parchment manuscripts, printed almanacs, newspaper columns, and glowing phone screens. Both the astronomer and the astrologer begin in the same quiet posture. Eyes lifted, attention widened, a human being standing beneath the dark, trying to understand what the lights above may reveal. Those lights can be understood through instruments as well as stories. A telescope gathers light that has crossed space for years, centuries, or longer. Some telescopes use glass lenses. Many large modern telescopes use curved mirrors, because mirrors can be built wider and can collect more faint light. The James Webb Space Telescope, launched in 2021, carries a gold-coated mirror more than 21 feet across. Its mirror catches infrared light, which is light beyond the red edge of human vision. Infrared light can pass through some clouds of cosmic dust, letting astronomers see young stars, distant galaxies, and objects too cool or too hidden for ordinary visible light. Science asks the sky to give measurements. How bright is the object? How far away is it? How fast is it moving? What is it made of? A tool called a spectroscope can split starlight into thin bands of color. Those bands can show fingerprints of hydrogen, helium, sodium, calcium, iron, and other elements. A star may look like a single white point to the eye, yet its light carries chemical information across space. The sky becomes a record written in wavelengths. Distance can be measured too, though it takes care. For nearby stars, astronomers use a method called parallax. As Earth moves from one side of its orbit to the other, a nearby star appears to shift slightly against more distant stars. The angle is tiny. Even the nearest star system, Alpha Centauri, shifts by less than 1 second of arc, which is a very small slice of the sky. That small shift tells astronomers the star is about 4.37 light years away. A light year is the distance light travels in 1 year, about 5.88 trillion miles. Science also measures gravity. The moon's pull can be seen in tides. The sun's gravity holds Earth in its yearly path. Jupiter's mass shapes the paths of many small bodies in the solar system. When planets tug on their host stars in distant systems, astronomers can sometimes detect the tiny wobble and infer that an unseen planet is there. Measurement turns invisible influence into numbers. On Earth, the same careful approach studies sleep and daily rhythm. Researchers can measure melatonin in saliva or blood. They can record brain waves during sleep with small sensors placed on the scalp. They can track body temperature, heart rate, light exposure, and movement across days or weeks. A person's sleep pattern becomes a gentle trail of data. Bedtime, wake time, deep sleep, light exposure, and the rhythm of rest. This is the measured sky entering the measured body. Light sets clocks. Darkness allows sleep signals to rise. The moon moves oceans through gravity. Seasons change because Earth is tilted as it circles the sun. These are physical links that can be tested again and again. Astrology approaches the sky through a different doorway. It begins with the same visible heavens, then arranges them into symbols of timing and meaning. The sun becomes identity. The moon becomes emotion and inner rhythm. Mercury becomes speech and thought. Venus becomes beauty and affection. Mars becomes action and heat. Jupiter becomes growth. Saturn becomes structure and age. These meanings belong to culture, story, and reflection. They come from centuries of watching the planets move, noticing their colors and rhythms, and giving those movements human language. A telescope gathers photons. A story gathers memory. The telescope can show that Mars is a rocky planet with a thin carbon dioxide atmosphere, polar ice caps, dust storms, and iron-rich soil. The story of Mars can also hold the human feeling of courage, conflict, anger, and effort. A spectroscope can reveal the chemistry of Venus. A symbol of Venus can help someone think about love, pleasure, harmony, and what they find beautiful. These two ways of looking answer different needs. One helps us know what the sky is made of. The other helps people ask what the sky has meant to human beings. There is room for care here. Clear measurement protects us from making claims too large for the evidence. Symbolic meaning protects the sky from becoming only a set of cold numbers. Together, they show a fuller human relationship with the heavens. A person can respect gravity, distance, light, and biology, while still understanding why a birth chart may feel tender or useful. A person can trust the body clock and still feel moved by the moon. The stars can be measured across space, and they can also be remembered in the quiet places of the mind. Both responses begin with attention. The eye lifts. The night opens. The same sky offers facts to measure and meanings to contemplate, leaving the old human habit of looking upward still softly alive. That upward attention has followed human beings across almost every place they have lived. In deserts, islands, river valleys, mountains, forests, and open grasslands, the sky gave people direction before maps could be printed and carried. Near the North Pole of the sky, Polaris has helped travelers in the Northern Hemisphere find north because it stays almost fixed while other stars appear to circle around it. In the Southern Hemisphere, sailors have used the Southern Cross to estimate direction when Polaris cannot be seen. Across the Pacific, Polynesian navigators traveled between islands by reading star paths, ocean swells, winds, birds, and cloud shapes. Their journeys crossed thousands of miles of open water, guided by memory, training, and the night sky. The sky also helped people make calendars. The moon's 29.5-day cycle gave many cultures a visible way to count months. The sun's yearly path marked solstices and equinoxes, those turning points when daylight reaches an extreme or comes into balance. The solstice in June brings the longest daylight of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. The solstice in December brings the shortest. Around the equinoxes, day and night come closer to equal length. Ancient monuments often honored these turning points. At Stonehenge in England, the stones frame sunrise near the summer solstice and sunset near the winter solstice. At Newgrange in Ireland, built more than 5,000 years ago, sunlight enters a narrow passage near the winter solstice and reaches deep into the chamber. These places show how carefully people watch the movement of light across the year. The sky also carried stories. The Greeks saw Orion as a hunter. Many indigenous cultures in North America told star stories tied to animals, seasons, teachings, and the movements of the land. In ancient China, sky watchers grouped stars into patterns connected with palaces, animals, officials, and sacred regions of the heavens. Different cultures drew different pictures from the same night, because the stars offered points of light, and people brought memory to them. That may be the quiet heart of astrology's lasting power. It belongs to the old human wish to feel placed inside a larger order. A birth sky is one moment within a turning system. Earth is rotating once every 24 hours. The moon is moving around Earth. Earth is traveling around the sun at about 67,000 miles per hour. The sun is moving through the Milky Way with its planets held close by gravity. At the moment any person is born, all of that motion is already happening. A baby's first breath belongs to a date, a season, a moon phase, a place on Earth, and a sky overhead. That does not have to decide every detail of a life. It can still feel meaningful. The science within this story has been steady and real. The zodiac comes from the sun's apparent path through the sky, the ecliptic. The 12 signs began as a way to divide that yearly path into a repeating circle. The sun shapes seasons, weather, photosynthesis, food chains, sleep timing, mood, and daily body rhythm. Morning light enters the eyes and helps set the master clock in the brain. The moon changes the brightness of night and helps pull the oceans into tides. Birth season can place a newborn into different patterns of light, temperature, routine, and early environment. Human beings also search for patterns, remember symbols, and use stories to understand themselves. Astrology rests where those pieces meet. Sky watching, timekeeping, seasonal life, body rhythm, memory, symbol, reflection. Each part gives the subject a little more shape. For someone who loves astrology, this can make the practice feel more grounded. For someone who prefers science, it can make astrology easier to understand with respect. The stars above may be distant suns burning far beyond reach. The signs may be ancient symbols carried through calendars, myths, books, and conversations. The body may answer most clearly to light, darkness, season, and sleep. All of these truths can sit together quietly. A person can look up and see physics. A person can look up and feel meaning. The same sky has room for measurement and wonder. As the night settles, it is enough to remember that people have always lifted their eyes toward the dark and searched for their place inside it. Astrology may last because it gives that search a language. A birthday becomes part of a season. A chart becomes a circle of memory. A starry sky becomes a reminder that each life begins inside a vast and turning world. Above every roof, field, road, and window, the heavens keep moving with patient rhythm. And somewhere beneath that motion, human beings keep finding quiet ways to feel connected to the universe above.